The entire team at Emsolation want to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We want to recognise that we are recording and telling our stories on the stolen land of our country's first storytellers. We wish to pay our respects to all Wurundjeri elders and ancestors, and to extend that respect to any First Nations peoples who listen to Emsolation. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples' continued connection to the land and waters of this country, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. Always was, always will be.
Em Rusciano and Michael Lucas. This is Emsolation.
Michael Lucas, it's a special little extra Thursday afternoon treat for everyone. Now, I haven't really told you much about this. Last week, obviously, was the 10-year anniversary of Dr. Patrick's death on Offspring. Have the abusive messages stopped?
They have. I mean, I was about to say they're lovingly abusive, but I feel like that's so deeply problematic. But I feel like they are, I would describe them as affectionately teasing, mostly, I think. That's how I'm choosing to think of them.
Did you see that TV Week or one of the magazines said that there might be an Offspring season, whatever you'd be doing? Did you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what do you say to that?
What do I say to that? There's always, like, it just pops up constantly. And I don't think it's any real secret that if 10/Paramount Plus could convince everyone to do more, then, you know, they'd happily, like, everyone that worked on it fully knows that if everyone congregated and just said, and not even everyone, really, I mean, at this stage, they just take, Asher Ketty is the only person that they really would absolutely 100% need. But yeah, so it's all. But I don't have any intel on it, but I'd be very surprised if it was happening. I know exactly what she's doing. She's just come off Lost Layers of Alice Hart, and she's doing this other amazing TV show in Melbourne at the moment with the director of Newsreader, and I don't think she's returning to Nina. I'm sorry to say. I think that was bullshit.
You heard it here first, everybody. Well, no doubt you heard the messages from Emsolators last week.
Yeah, of course I did. I love them. And I loved that there was people swimming against the tide. Thank you for incorporating them so it wasn't just a tidal wave. It felt like a true reflection of the spread.
Of course. Well, there was one message we held out because when I heard it, it made me cry, and I didn't want it to be lost in the sea of kind of, you know, tongue-in-cheekedness that was going on around it. And I knew there would be something you would perhaps want to sit with, and I wanted you to hear it like as a standalone because it kind of, I think it's the reason you're a writer in the end. I think it's so.
Oh my goodness.
All right, I'm going to play it, but I'm warning you. It's really like it'll get you in your feelings, please. All right, here it is.
Hi, this is Gem. On the 10th anniversary of Patrick's death, I want to say thank you, Mr. Michael Lucas. 10 years ago, I was 8 months pregnant, carrying the much-wanted baby of my husband who died in February of that year. To be pregnant to a dead husband is not that common a thing, thank goodness. So when the same fate befell Nina, I was devastated for her, but also grateful that she could show people a bit of what it might be like for me. Watching Offspring was incredibly cathartic for me. Nina and Zoe's life went on, as did life for me and my beautiful daughter, who will turn 10 in September. It's comforting to me that Patrick is not forgotten, as I know my husband will also never be forgotten by all those who loved him. So thank you, Michael. You are such a talented writer.
Oh my God. That is incredible.
Right.
Even with that build-up, I didn't think it was going to be that. Oh, my God. Wow. I know. Well, you're right. I mean, that's astounding. What more could you hope for? And I know at this point I also have to say, obviously, Deborah Oswald was the driver behind that show, and Jonathan Gavin and everyone that made it, all the directors and everything like that. But, I mean, everyone would be just so moved to hear that. That is unbelievable. I imagine that it would have been intensely difficult to watch that first episode, but I'm glad that the story delivered on the other end of it, and that's amazing. My God, I've never heard from anyone who has had had that experience, and certainly never that they've connected it with Offspring. I do remember at the time, and I wish I'd screenshotted it online, people were showing, like after the funeral episode, like little Zoe's finger curled around Nina's or whatever, and there were people had taken things like their parents had texted them going, watching this, and I remember when your finger curled around mine like that, and I was like, even that blew me away. But that was amazing.
Yeah, I know.
So her daughter is 10 now.
It's 10 in September.
Wow.
Yeah. 'Cause she was living Nina and her were living parallel lives. And I imagine, and like she said, the comfort in seeing Nina survive it, I think, and come through and be able to go on and not feel bad about life going on, because that's often a hard thing when you lose someone really close to you. You go outside and it's like, how dare the sun shine and how dare those birds go about their day and how dare that bus honk? Why is life still spinning? And I think you do feel kind of like this should be a bigger thing, like everything should have just stopped.
It also validates, there was a really controversial choice that we managed to get Matt for a couple of weeks to appear in season 5. So he kept popping in her imagination, because we wanted to, he's gone physically, but he's always at the forefront of her mind and in her grieving process. And that proved to be quite divisive, because we were like, I don't want to see him and have him be a part of her imagination. But when I hear that response, I'm so glad that we did that we didn't just sort of that we really kept going with the way that her grief worked well into the next season, and didn't just have her suddenly pop up, walk down the street. Oh, here's a new guy.
Vindication.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that with me.
And to Emsolator Gem, that was so beautifully written and spoken, and I was watching my best friend's face as he heard your voice. And I like that you two have 10 years later been able to connect like this. It's beautiful. It's brilliant. And Michael, as a writer, doesn't get to – I get that stuff all the time as a performer, all the time. But yours is such a long, drawn-out process. You never get this kind of – validation or confirmation that something that you were a part of changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It normally goes to the actors, which is interesting. So, because I always remember there was, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen season 2 of 5 Bedrooms, but there was a miscarriage storyline in there. And Katie Robertson, the actress, is just, constant, that she gets these long messages on Instagram and everything like that. And I completely understand. And the same with like Roy Joseph, who plays Harry. He's heard from so many queer people of colour that have related to Harry's experience. So I know that it happens, but it tends to go towards the actors, which is completely understandable. But anyway, so I especially appreciate it.
Oh, good. All right, well, that's it for our little special pop-in. 2 for 1 on your Thursday. Bye, Michael Lucas.
Goodbye.
Like what you heard and want more? Emsolation is a totally independent, neurodivergent, female-led podcast, which you can help support by subscribing to Emsolation Extra. Get exclusive bonus episodes every Tuesday, question time with Em and Michael, pre-show meetings, videos of the podcast recording, pre-sale access to live events and discount merch, a weekly newsletter, and so much more. Help us by subscribing now or gift a subscription to someone you love at emsolation.supercast.com or get the link via Emsolation socials. Emsolation with Em Russiano is recorded at Down the Hill Studios, hosted by Em Russiano with Michael Lucas, executive produced by Benjamin Wasley, produced by Em Russiano, edited by Ezekiel Fenn, socials by Em Russiano, Benjamin Wasley and Marcella Russiano Barrow, with assistance from Jem Evans and Georgia Watts, with videos by James Henderson. Follow us on Instagram at Emsolation Podcast and join other Emsolators at the Emsolation group on Facebook. The answer is Harry Styles. Please take the time to share this podcast with a friend. Give us a 5-star rating and make sure you're following us on whatever podcast app you use by hitting the follow button. Thanks for listening, and we can't wait to chat with you again soon.